Hi, this is in continuation to my previous section. So where we are actually looking an example of the user-defined exception, right? So where we have already created something called insufficient fund exception, right? So which was extending a class called exception class. Okay. Now, if you want to throw some user-defined exception, this way you do it. Okay. You first define a class with the user-defined exception. Now you're trying to create a class called ATM exception. Okay, ATM system. So you have created ATM system, okay, and then let's copy the code what we have here, and we'll try to debug it. What are we trying to do here? Okay, so what are we trying to do here? So initially your balance of your account was 500. Okay, balance is 500. You had balance is 500, but withdrawal amount you're doing it as 600. What it does is, so it is trying to process the withdrawal. Okay, so when it is trying to process the withdrawal, right? So one second, let us copy the exact method, all those things. So okay, so you're trying to check the balance. So what are we trying to do here? So we are trying to check the balance. So what is the balance you have? Balance you are passing as 500, withdrawal amount is 600, right? So if it goes inside this, okay, the check balance method. So balance is 500. The amount which we are trying to deduct is withdrawal amount is 600. So this is the balance amount which you pass as this parameter. This is the withdrawal amount which you passed as 600. Okay, and now you're trying to check the balance. Balance, if amount is greater than the, here what is the withdrawal amount? Withdrawal amount is 600, which is greater than the 500. It will throw an exception called insufficient funds exception. Balance is too low. You need how much balance? 100 more, right? Amount is 600 minus 500 is 100 more, right? So this line won't execute, any exception is thrown, because exception is already thrown from here, and this line won't execute. Okay, if you just run this, right, it will give you that exception, right? Insufficient funds exception, this one. This is the user defined exception, because, so user defined exception, so you are trying to catch, right? So you're trying to catch it. So you throw so okay, here you have already used covering a keyword called throw, which we already learned. So we learned some keywords called try, catch, finally, throws, and throw. So don't confuse between throws and throw. Okay, throw is used to handle the user defined exception. Okay, and throws is nothing but so that whenever you're trying to handle, uh, if you're not covering or you're not surrounding your code with the that exception, right, you use throws keyword, that which we have already seen earlier, right? So now in this case what happened? First of all, it printed processing or not withdrawal. Then what happened? It went inside, uh, transaction close, where is it, this one? Okay, so now finally block is executed. Please take your card, please, because transaction class closed, and it throws an exception, right? So how does it happen? So I think this is concept is clear, right? So user defined exception is exception when you are to write some custom exceptions. Custom in the sense, if you want to write some based on your requirement, you want to write some customized exceptions, right? So then you use custom exceptions here. Okay, so there you define method static void state. So this is the generic method, which this is the method where you already define on the top, right? You already define saying that, so what is the balance you're passing? Balance is 500 and amount withdrawal is 600, right? So you just pass that, and when you just surrounded this within a this exception, right? I mean, you're surrounding this with a try block. When this is executed, it goes inside insufficient funds exception, and it will throw an error. Got it? I think it's clear, right? With this, most of the topics under the exception is closed. Let us look if did we miss anything here. So most of the points under the exception has been covered. Okay, so you might also get under the, I mean, under the runtime exception, you might also get array index out of bound exception, right? For example, you had a for loop. Okay, you have defined an array. Okay, like for example, your size of an array is 6. Okay, and you're trying to access a array of 7 or 8, right? Then it will give trying to access array of 10 which has the array of 5 elements. Then you get array index out of bound exception. So you are saying that you are defined a size of 5 and you're saying why are we going to access 10, right? This will happen everything. So in general, in the real time scenario, what happens is, so value initially you saved in the database, and you try to fetch those values from the database and try to iterate over the values, right? So how the system should will behave at that point of time is what this array index out of exceptions, right? So I hope this concept is clear. If you have any doubts, right, so let's add a comment. Okay, and it will be more helpful, I think. This exception and the oops concepts which we have learned, right, or constructor, all these things are used in academic, as well as these are the main important interview questions which will be asked, right? So I think I these concepts are clear. So in the next video, we will come up with something called collections, right? Collections is most important for the interviews, as well as for the your academic concepts. Okay, I think with this I'll close the video here, and thank you so much for watching this video. I hope if you are reached till here, you'll watch my video. Okay, thank you so much. Bye.